Hello and welcome to the short Vort on Parshas Acharei Mos-Kedoshim. This week will be longer than usual, but I think this dramatic story is definitely worthwhile. I found it to be very interesting, and it actually connects not just to the two Parshios, but to this week's Daf Yomi on Friday morning, the end of Daf Nun Vav Amud Beis. And in that topic, it talks about different Baalei Tshuva among the greatest ones of that generation. And one of those listed was a Nasan Nitzutza. So who was Nasan Nitzutza? Rabbeinu Nissim Gaon tells us the story about this Nasan Nitzutza. There was a very poor man who was married to a beautiful, beautiful wife. Her name was Chana. There was a very rich man named Nasan. And this Nasan, he was in love with Chana, and he wanted to be with her. But of course, as a married woman, he was not available to her. And he became sick because of this. Meanwhile, the husband of Chana, he was so poor that he was sent to debtor's prison because he couldn't pay his obligations. Over time, he was getting more and more depressed being there. And every day or so often, Chana would come and visit her husband and bring him food and talk to him. And one time he says, look, I can't take it anymore. You've got to go to this guy, Nasan. He's a rich man. Ask him for a loan. And that way I'll pay my debts. I'll be able to get out of the jail. But Chana said, no, I can't. You know that he loves me. He wants me. I can't do it. It's very risky. However, sometime later, the husband persisted and started crying and says, I got to get out of here. You got to go to Nasan and get a loan, get the money. So finally, Chana said, okay. And she prayed to Hashem that she should not be nichshal. She shouldn't stumble in any way regarding this shlichus. So she went to the sick Nasan, the wealthy man, and she said, my husband's been in jail. He's got these debts. He asked me to come to you to pay them off, give him a loan, and can you do so? And Nasan said right away, he says, I can do this. He sent his servants to take care of the matter. Then he said to Chana, he said, Chana, I did what you want without any hesitation. I have one request from you. And she said, I'm in a precarious position, I owe you big time. It's hard to say no, but before I agree, you have to think, I want you to think about one thing, and that is that for a few moments of pleasure, are you willing to give away the gigantic reward that you just earned? Nasan thought about it, and he got out of bed, even though he sprung out, and he started praying to Hashem. He says, Hashem, please let me overcome my desires. And he overcame his desires. And Chana went back. And the husband was able to come out of jail, but he came home and he was very suspicious, and he thought that clearly my wife must have been with him in order to get this money. Meanwhile, time passed, and Rabbi Akiva saw this man on a horse, and he had this glow around his head. And Rabbi Akiva asked his talmidim who were with him, do you see that man? Do you know who he is? They said, yes, that's the rich man Nasan who desires the wife of the woman Chana, the married woman. Rabbi Akiva said, do you see the glow on his head? The talmidim said, no, they didn't see it. So Rabbi Akiva asked them to bring him over to this man. And they asked the man, why is it that you had this special glow? And the rich man Nasan explained. He said, this is the whole story. He told it from beginning to end. And Rabbi Akiva said, if you want to get a tremendous merit, come with me, become my talmid, become my student, and I'll help you grow in Torah and become big mitzvahs, and you'll earn an even bigger olam haba. And the man did so. He became a talmid of Rabbi Akiva, and he grew and he grew. They actually say that he was, the Gemara says, and not just Shabbos on Amud Beis, but Sandhedrin Lamed Aleph Amud Beis says that this was actually Mar Ukva. That was Nasan Nitzutza. And the spark represented either it was a sparks that you could see, or it was different light around his head, or is even one explanation is regarding to tzitzis, meaning his side locks that the angel grabbed onto because of his greatness. And this man was learning in the base medrash of Rabbi Akiva. And the husband of Hannah came one day, and he was in the base medrash, and he was shocked to see that rich man was in the base medrash, and he was a talmid chacham and everything. And he spoke to Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva told the story that happened. And then the man finally believed that his wife had remained tahar. And this is the story of Nasan Nitzutza, the biggest Baal Tshuva. So I think this connects to the Parsha. First, in order to say something quickly about Acharei Mos, so it says in Perek Tes Zayin Pasuk Daled that Moshe was told to Daber Aaron Achicha, speak to Aaron your brother. And Reb Noam Elimelech, the Noam Elimelech, Reb Elimelech Miluzhensk, he says that this was a lesson for us that speak to Aaron your brother, don't speak to someone who's not going to listen when you give them musar, but speak to someone who's your brother, like Aaron, who will want to do mitzvahs, will want to do tshuva, will accept musar. And that's my audience. My audience is one that's willing to grow. And moving on to Kedoshim, which is how in Sefer Legath Tov I heard the story. I heard only a snippet of the story, and I researched it, and that's how I came out with the bigger picture of who this Nasan Nitzutza was. I'd never heard of him beforehand. But anyhow, it says, Al tifnu el ha'alilim, do not, in Yud Tes Daled, do not turn to the false gods. And the Sefer Chinuch says that this says, don't even talk about them. So Alexander Moshe Lapidot, who's a 19th century student of the Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, he wrote a Sefer Divrei Emes, and in this Divrei Emes, he says, why can't you even talk chatter? What's the problem? You're just not like you're serving the Avodah Zarah or anything like that. He says, based on the Vilna Gaon, that there's a ruach in the world, there's a spirit for everything, and if you do a certain type of action, that spirit wants more of the same action. And that's where we get the lesson of, mitzvah goreres mitzvah, avera goreres avera. That one mitzvah leads to another, or one avera chas v'shalom leads to another. Which is why you have to stay away from idle chatter, because then your spirit will want more of that chatter, and you'll be wasting your time. So how do you overcome this Yetzer Hara? So that's where Rabbi Lapidot brought down the story, and he says what he does for himself is he thinks about this, what Hannah said to Nasan. He says, for a few moments of pleasure, are you going to give up this world? And he says, for him, that's what he thinks about when he does something like checking out the headlines instead of being osek b'torah mitzvahs. And that's what really grabbed me in the first place, because the Sefer, the Legath Tov, that grabbed his 19th century Dvar Torah is over 30 years old. So that was then. Today, even more so, I feel it myself, constantly, going from website to website, looking for more updates about what's going on in the world and wasting my time that way when I could be more productive. So I too want to use this lesson to help me, and maybe you'll do it also, to avoid wasting too much time, or at least reduce the amount of time you waste, be more productive learning Torah. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful